All right, let's go to Rachel in Nashville, Tennessee. Rachel, what are you doing? How's it going?
It's going great, John. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for calling. So what in the world? You're in my neighborhood, so I'm going to be extra nice, right? So what's going on? How
Don't
can I
be.
help?
I'm from California.
Oh, it's on now. Actually, you're helping all of our real estate prices, so I'm glad you're here too. So what's up? How can I help?
So I've been struggling all my life with anger and violent thoughts, and it's led my husband to become from a kind and patient person to kind of short and stressed out all the time.
Okay. So you've been
So
wrestling
I want to
with
know, is there
violent and angry thoughts for most of your life.
Yes.
Tell me about these violent thoughts.
It's usually out of like morbid curiosity of, what would happen if I, shot everybody or killed some people with a knife I'm holding, and even walking into a room, it's like how many people could you get away with killing before people notice you're doing it? Or to solve problems, my first thoughts turn to, I could just punch somebody and it can totally end the conversation right now.
Okay. And then what does the anger feel like? Where does that come from?
I'm going to just assume it's just from my mom was a very tense person.
Okay.
She wasn't when I was younger, so much, but she was very quick to anger. And it got worse over the years as I grew up.
Okay.
And that just led to me seeing anger solve the problems because nobody really wanted to, argue with her.
Okay. And
so they would just let things go.
Deal with the relationship stuff. Okay. And so now you're married. What else have you struggled with? Have you struggled with anxiety before? Have you struggled to deal with any sort of past abuse? Do you deal with hallucinations? Like, what else are you working with here?
I do deal with a lot of hallucinations. That's happened. I can remember past when I was 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I've been dealing with them.
Okay.
I have had insomnia for a long time, but I never knew what it was. My mom assumed I was sleepwalking, but in reality, I was actually, I would get up in the middle of the night when people weren't awake, and I would wait till they were all asleep, and then I would sneak out and go crawl around the house and play with the cats, or actually sneak outside and go wander around the neighborhood and quietly come back in. My mom doesn't even know I would sneak out.
Okay. When's the last time you had hallucinations?
Yesterday, last night.
Tell me about it.
It starts out with voices. I think I hear somebody whispering to me, and I can't clearly hear what they're saying. Now I just ignore it to the point where I don't even care what they're saying, and then it turns into I thought I saw somebody walk into my room, or there's somebody outside hanging out my window. I've just learned to ignore it.
Okay.
But if my husband's not home, I freak out and will not sleep because it gets worse, because he keeps me grounded. If I get too worked up at night where it's getting really bad and all I can hear is just screaming and, voices in my head, I can cling to him and know, okay, he's real. Everything's real.
Gotcha.
We're fine.
So when you're in relationship, you understand there's a gap between what you're experiencing and what's truly there. And when you find yourself by yourself, as we all do, right? Those fears, whether they're thoughts or no, I can actually hear that, or I just saw that shadow, I just saw that trailer. My heart is racing as though somebody is looking out the window, right? Your body starts to react for you, right? That gap between what I'm feeling and reality disappears. And your body says, we're not safe, right? We got to respond.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you been medicated for this before? Have you gone to see somebody?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Before my, I did have seizures in the past, and they were small, petite mal seizures, and I would see things people wouldn't would hear about was just left to, hey, you're little and you have an active imagination.
Right.
I just learned to keep it quiet because at the time my mom wouldn't deal with mental issues very well.
Sure. So what I want to do here, well, let me do this before I start, just pipe in here. How can I help? Are you calling about this, like what to do next? Or tell me, what's your question?
My question is there a way I can cope first with my anger? Because my anger just blows up, and my kids are getting afraid of me because I will just start screaming at them, and then I catch myself and it's like, calm down. They didn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to figure out what can I do where it doesn't happen anymore, because I black out.
Yeah. So number one, what a great mom who's thinking, I need to stop this. I don't like where this is headed. So good for you. Okay. That tells me you've got at least 1 foot on the ground in reality, right? And you have a picture of what you want to be, and you also don't have the tools to get there right now. So good for you for just stopping and saying, I need to get some help. Okay. The best way I can describe this, tell me if this hits home. There become moments that you're trying to hold your thoughts and what you're seeing and or experiencing, right? Whether that's smelling, hearing, and the thoughts and the actions that you know you're supposed to be doing. It feels kind of like you're trying to hold soup in your hands. And most of it keeps running out, but you're trying to keep it together, but it just jumbles all together. And you are holding some pieces, but it just is. Does that make sense? It just starts to slip away.
Yeah, it really does. I often feel like I'm on a razor's edge between reality and insanity.
Yeah.
And I know that if I slip down in insanity, I'm not going to easily get back up.
You can't get back. That's right. So I got some good news for you and some challenging news, okay? The good news is there is healing here, I think, okay? Given your child, this has been going on for a long, long time. Given that you've got a history of seizures, given that you've got a history of what I'm going to guess is a pretty challenging childhood, nothing you're telling me is surprising, okay? Nothing you're telling me is freaking me out. I will tell you that the way you have been able to articulate what's going on in your mind and in your heart, you need professional psychiatric care today. Okay. And so the violent imagery, the I wonder what if, on top of anger that can lead to blackout, and there's young kids in the picture, and sometimes I can stay tethered and sometimes I can't, and the hallucinations, plus your history of epilepsy. It's time to go sit down with a psychiatrist and say, here's what I'm experiencing. And the challenge is that what you're experiencing is a very real brain issue, okay? Similar to you were lifting weights and your elbow broke, or you were playing soccer in the front yard and you broke your ankle. Nobody would look at you and say, hey, you have a moral issue. You got bad character if you go to a doctor. No, they would say, hey, you got to go sit down and see somebody. Let them know what's truly going on. And the pharmaceutical interventions on these things are so remarkable here in the 21st century. And it's time for you to go do that work, okay? And I know that it's scary to say out loud with somebody because you think they're going to take your kids away, or you think that they're going to take your control of a situation away. And what I'm telling you is, depending on the nuances of your situation, I'm not hearing that now, but I am hearing that you got to get help. Here's what anger is. Anger points us towards something that we care about. Anger is our body's way of saying, this is really important to me, and it's not the way it's supposed to be. And your body's going to continue to respond in that way because it is trying to make sense of reality and non-reality all at the same time. Okay? And the more that there's that divide, And as your kids grow up, they're going to do things that you don't want to do. That's just parenting, right? And your husband's going to have these experiences, and the world around you is going to have these experiences. It's going to be stimulating and overwhelming. You got to go get the help that you need. And so here's what I'm asking from you, Rachel. Would you commit on behalf of you, on behalf of those little ones, of a husband? It sounds like he loves you, all right? Will you go call somebody today and say, I need to come in and just tell you what's been going on in my whole life? Will you commit to that?
Yes.
You're worth that. And you live here in my community. You're worth that. Does that scare you? Does that make you nervous? Is that a relief?
I don't know. I guess I'm unsure of if finding the right person to work with me.
Sure.
I have trouble talking to a lot of people. Usually it wears me out and I just want to go home and
That's right.
be just with my family or in my own little place.
That's exactly right. That's right. And so it's going to be a risk and it's going to be scary. And what I want you to know is you're worth a life without that dark imagery. And you're worth being able to be in your own home and that be a place of peace, not a place of terror. And you're worth not having blackout anger fits. And you're worth having kids who aren't scared of their mom because deep down you're a good person and you love your family.
I try to be a good person, and I do love my family.
I know you do. I know you do. I know you do. The person I want you to start loving that much is you. It's Rachel. And that starts with the first time in your life, going to see somebody and saying, hey, I need to get help. I need the voices to stop. And what I'm telling you is you live in a great city with some great resources. Whether you start with your employee handbook, whether you pick up a phone book and call Vanderbilt Psychiatric, whether you call a local counselor and say, hey, I need some help. And I know this is going to be bigger than just something a local counselor can help me with, but I need to go get some help. But you need to do that today. You can do that today. Thank you so much for your vulnerability, Rachel. I know this call was hard. Thanks for being willing to tell the truth and be open. And now I'm looking forward to seeing what the next chapter in Rachel's life, what healing is going to look like for your brain. I know you're exhausted. What's going to look like in your family, what's going to look like with your kids, with your husband, all of it. And that starts with you calling a psychiatrist and saying, I need some help. Thank you so much for your vulnerability, Rachel.